Boom! And we are live. I have the honor and privilege to have on FS1. You're on First Things First. Every once in a while, you're on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. And now you're the host of the Joy Taylor Show. Joy Taylor, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love what you're doing. And I have one thing about me before we get into everything. I love analogies. I absolutely love analogies. I've compared NBA players to Marvel characters, rap artists to NBA players.
Well, then you love Colin then.
He's actually like one of my idols. And you were on set. And then I met Colin Cowherd a little bit. So I was with Rashad Phillips. And he was about to go live. Rashad's my mentor. We covered the Magic together. We do the NBA draft show together. And he came through the fitting room very quickly. And I'm like, that's the guy right there. That's the guy I strive to be like. So I love analogies. It just brings people together who may not understand your concept. You don't always have to agree with it, but it's kind of my thing.
Yeah, so, Colin is the king of analogies.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I listen to you guys every day. So I'm like, how can I come up with an analogy for Joy Taylor? And I came up with one. I think you'll like it. I did some homework. So Joy Taylor, you are the diamond of sports media. And here's why. So the three things that consist of a diamond is the angles and facets, which always shine no matter the angle. You have pressure and you have clarity. So let's start with the angles and facets.
Okay.
So no matter what angle, no matter what show, no matter what format, you've always shined. Now, pressure. There's always tons of pressure on you whenever you're on TV. I'm sure you have such high expectations and pressure for yourself. You've always thrived under pressure, which creates a diamond. Lastly is clarity. So the way you deliver your sports news, the way you articulate your sentences, it always provides such clarity for the sports consumer. Like I said, I listen to you every day. So I'm like, Joy Taylor, you are the diamond of sports media.
I like that. I mean, how can you hate that? That's very well thought out. And who doesn't like diamonds?
Exactly. And you have, obviously you have drip. You know how to dress.
Oh, thank you. Yes. My dear friend from high school has a clothing line, and he is kind enough to always send me hoodies, which I live my life in. So I like to help him out. But
I love it. Yes, I'm like, you are the diamond of it. Now, you made a post like we were talking about a little bit off air. And for someone, like I'm starting my journey, like I said, I'm just finishing up college. I don't go to a big college. I don't really come from a wealthy family. So I've always had to like put in that extra work. Like I've never been handed things, always been kind of overlooked. I don't go to the Dukes or the Harvards or the Full Sails. And so I've always had to do radio shows, even if it was for free, because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I love it. Or I cover the Orlando Magic, and you'd struggle for parking tickets for the garage as a college student. And so but I've realized everything that you do leads up to that end result. And obviously not everyone wants to do those things that require you to get to point A. And so I just related it to it so much because I was like, Joy, I'm sure there was times where you questioned, can I really do this? Or you questioned, should I do this? So I just wanted to ask you, to someone who's achieved the utmost stuff you can in this industry, what was that process like? Were there ever times where you doubted, or did you know right away, I'm going to do this? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always run into frustrating times or disappointments, or doors shut in your face, or opportunities that you thought you deserved or you wanted that you didn't get. And I think that happens throughout your career, no matter what level you're on, from when you're starting until you're where I'm at now or where I strive to be. So that's I think that's a part of being an aspirational person, is understanding and starting to find your unique way of dealing with, failure or setbacks or roadblocks. And if you're going to try and accomplish something big, it's not going to be grooves for you, no matter who you are or where you come from. You can't be accomplished and continue to accomplish if you're not putting in hard work. So, and that requires a constant habit of hard work. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times where it's been frustrating, and that still happens, because I still have things that I'm aspiring to. But, I part of the reason why I put up that post was because a lot of times people do think when you get something that, they're not paying attention to necessarily where you came from, or, what you did before you got to that point, or even what you still want to do. And so first of all, I wanted to thank everybody that helped me, because I did have a lot of people along the way give me opportunities. And even if it was, like you said, just having a mentor or internships, and, what people think are small things are actually building blocks for your career and can actually be very substantial. So, yeah, I mean, I started at my university's radio station, so that was certainly for free. Which eventually I actually got a job there, so I think it was like $8 an hour or something as the manager there, but definitely was starting for free as a student. And then interning, and then part-time producer, and then executive producer, and then on air and radio, and then FS1, and then Undisputed, and then The Herd, and a lot of things in between. So it's a process, and I don't like to say trust the process.
Right.
I don't know how well that's worked out for Philadelphia. But I say enjoy the process, because it does take a long time. I mean, it takes longer for some than others, and that's a whole other nuanced conversation. But, I started in this business a long time ago. So 14 years ago when I got to Barry University, which makes me feel really old, but it's true. And I think it's important sometimes for people to see that, you do have to put in the reps to get these opportunities sometimes, and you have to be relentless. And it's important to embrace your passion and also know your worth. There's a time to put in work where maybe you're necessarily doing something for lower than you would want to do it for, or you're not getting paid for this, or, whatever. You're just, you're doing it because you want the experience, or you want the mentorship, or you want the connection and networking. But if you care about it enough, you will have it. And it just might take you longer than you want, but things come to you when they're supposed to. Colin told a story on the show the other day, and he's told us many times. He got to meet one of his idols, one of his broadcasting idols. I think he's a play-by-play or announcer for the Seattle Mariners. And he had a program, and he got a chance to, well, I don't know if he talked his way into the press box, right, and met him, and he asked him to sign the program for him. And the man signed it and said, "Dear Colin, if you want to sit here, you will." And the meaning of that message is, if you want something bad enough and you pour all your energy into getting it, even though, they might not give women those jobs, or they might not give Black women those jobs, or you might not have the connection with the fraternity from the big school with the executive. You might not, have scored the big internship that will get you in the building. But if you are relentless with your pursuits of your passion, you will get it.
Right. One of the things that I took away the most from being out there, and it was Shad's time, but he took me out there. Like I said, we were covering the Orlando Magic, interviewing the players, and I always told him what my dreams, goals, and aspirations were, and he always took me under his wing. So when we went out to Fox, met Chris, met Rob, I'm hopefully going to be out there when COVID eventually clears. But you guys are just very good people, and I feel like that's an underrated thing. Like, Rob Parker didn't need to take me under his wing and text me, and like I had breakfast with him the other morning when he was in Orlando, and Chris Broussard, and like, no matter how successful you guys were, I felt like when Colin always says, like, what are people going to say about you when you're not in the room? And it's like, all you guys were good individuals. And I feel like that gets underrated to the point now. Everyone just thinks you have to do a certain thing, but I feel like just being a good person, could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not there yet, but being a good person, I feel like helps.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely helps. And, in our business, it feels huge in Hollywood and lights in the studio. But we all kind of came from humble roots. Colin did not, he tells his story all the time. He started in Vegas and didn't finish college and took his first job there with no money, and his car caught on fire. And I'm sure Rob and Chris have a similar story, and I certainly do as well. And yeah, I mean, even if you do come from money, that doesn't mean that your first job in the business is going to be that. Like, most people start in the business making no money. You make no money for a long time. You have to have someone help you. Everybody has a story, has a kingmaker along their journey. So I think for a lot of people in the business, it's very important, if you are a good person, to pay it back, because somebody helped you get there, no matter who you are. And it's important to give other people opportunities, because it is so hard to break into the business, and it is so hard to get, those kind of jobs, that you always need a little push from somebody, a little, hey, give them a chance. So I think, at least the people that I have met in this business, most of them, I would say the overwhelming majority of them, do pay it back. And that is something that's important.
Right. And yeah, that's what I've really noticed that. And I've learned the value of relationships very early, and I'm very thankful for that. But I wanted to ask you this. So you've been on a plethora of shows. You've dealt with so many different personalities, and this industry is always changing. Like now it's going like that streaming, the digital, it's podcasting. How important is it to stay ahead of the curve? Like whether it's radio and it's TV, but now, like you said, people can reach certain audiences. I wouldn't have been able to get in contact with you if this was 20 years ago. Like now I can. Now I'm Skyping you, and now this could be a podcast. And how important is it? How hard is it at times to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I think if you are really invested in the business that you want to be in, I can't say that you can predict the future, but you can see where things are headed. And it's always been important to me to pay attention to trends and see what people are watching, what people are consuming, what people are interested in, what's changing. And I think that's just a product of, wanting to be successful in the business that you're in, whether it's broadcasting or whether it's, law or medicine or, what tech, whatever it is. It's important to try and look around the corner a little bit. You don't want to get left behind, and be flexible. It's very important to be flexible, because the dichotomy of our industry is that it's actually show business. Like it's journalism adjacent. I don't consider myself to be a journalist. I don't find the story and the facts. I read the story and the facts that a true journalist did, the work that they did, and that forms my opinion about what's happening. So, you do have to present things in an entertaining way. Like we work in a ratings-based business. So, paying attention to what the audiences react to and what people are consuming at a high level is important. And so it's always been something that I'm interested in. Like I follow all of the, media news sites and reporters and things like that. But I think that that's just something that if you care about your industry, no matter what industry you're in, you should pay attention to things like that.
Right. And the audience drives the bus, like as you guys are big J journalism. So let me ask you this. So I know it's NFL time, but I know you're a big Miami Heat fan. So I wanted to ask you a macro question about sports, NBA, NFL, another analogy for you. One thing I noticed, so the NFL's brand is the shield, right? There's not an individual player. It's the business. It's the brand. NBA is a star-driven sport. And so I've paid attention to it and I thought about it. And what it feels like, when like you're trying to look for a relationship, you don't find it, but when you're not looking, you find it. Like the NBA is so, look, who's the next face of the league? Is it Giannis? When LeBron's done, is it KD? Is it Curry? Is it Luka? They don't know who the next face of the NBA is, but the NFL knows it's Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes, but they weren't even looking for it. So do you think that's an issue or a good problem to have if you're the NBA? Do they need a face of the NBA?
No, I don't think that they do. And I think the idea of the face of the NBA is a little overblown when you look at the history of the NBA and the way that sports has sort of shifted with streaming and, being able to buy the NBA League Pass and Sunday Ticket. People are more fans of individual players in the NFL and in the NBA. So you don't really have to force that. Again, that's something that the consumer is going to determine naturally. So it's this concept that, we sometimes in the media get accused of covering like the same people. And it's like, yeah, well, this is who everyone talks about. So, that's how it works. If you don't want us to talk about LeBron, stop having an opinion about LeBron. You can't do that. So So I don't. Well, first of all, LeBron is not done playing. So LeBron is
Right.
still, I believe, the face of the NBA, and he's not done playing. So until LeBron is out of the league, I don't think that's something that the league needs to even really worry about. And the next man up might not necessarily be one individual. There are a lot of young stars in the league. You know, a
Right.
lot of us talked about Zion possibly being someone who stepped into that space. And, you know, I don't think that that's happened yet, but there is a lot of young, great talent. And who knows? I mean, I think Kevin Durant is a massive superstar. He might be the guy if he's still, you know, playing when LeBron retires, because who knows when LeBron is going to retire at this point.
We don't know. We
Tom
don't know.
Brady, yes. So, you know, I don't think that that's something that the NBA needs to worry about. I think the consumer will determine that. And to your point about, you know, finding a relationship when you're not looking for one, it might be something that just sparks that nobody really saw coming, or maybe we kind of saw it, but the interest changes and somebody, you know, just becomes a superstar in, you know, internationally for whatever reason. You know, we didn't see Mahomes coming, and he's a superstar. So, and there's lots of great players, but you have to have that star factor, that superstar factor, and nobody can manufacture that or give that to you. It's just it's this unexplainable X factor thing. That's why we have those shows, you know, The Voice and America's Got Talent and American Idol. Like, there are lots of stars, but how do you find that person, that individual that has that extra, you know, little sprinkle on them? And that's what the audience will determine that. So, you know, you can market somebody, you can push someone, but if they're not of that particular cut from that cloth that you know, the universe has determined, then it just doesn't matter. So I don't think it's something that the NBA should be concerned about. They have a lot of great young talent and, you know, a great young fan base, and they've really leaned into social media and the internet in a way that will keep them sustained for a long time. They'll be fine.
Right. Certain players just have that it, and you know it right away. Like Zion had it right away.
Yeah.
I want to, before we talk about your Heat last, I don't want to take too much of your time. The Los Angeles Lakers, you brought it up, LeBron James. Looks like he can play until God knows how long. So there's two things that I really felt people overlook when they talk about the age of the Lakers and how old they are. So, Joy, this is what I said. I compared LeBron James to Bluetooth. Now, hear me out. I know that sounds crazy, but Bluetooth, you can connect to any device. Now, like, I originally came up with this because MJ's Wi-Fi, LeBron's Bluetooth. MJ doesn't connect with everybody. He could be a jerk. He's too competitive. He rubs people the wrong way. But when he connects with you, it's a stronger signal. LeBron James, it's Bluetooth. He can connect with any player, any situation, any team. So I said he has Bluetooth quality. So I bring that up to say the Lakers have a new roster, but I feel like he can connect with everybody on this team. And lastly, the age factor I thought was a little bit overrated. Granted, yes, injuries, I'm not going to act like it doesn't exist, but what team right now is truly in their prime where you could say that's the number one guy? Like, besides Giannis and the Bucks, Kevin Durant's arguably not in his prime. Like, Steph Curry's not in his prime. Luka's probably not even in his prime yet. Trae Young's not in his prime. Like, you look at all the contenders, who's really in their prime? So I felt like that got overlooked a little bit in my eyes. Do you believe in the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, as long as LeBron James is playing basketball at the level that he's playing, which, you know, obviously he's more into the twilight of his career. I think that's fair to say, but he's still
Right.
LeBron James. And so I'm not going to ever not consider them contenders while he is there. Do I think their roster is a little on the old side? Yeah, I do, because they are. And that injury thing is a real factor. Anthony Davis has struggled staying healthy. And, you know, when you have an older team, that is a cause for concern.
Right.
I do think that Russell Westbrook is a huge addition for them. I think that that's very underrated. And, you know, people are talking about the fit and all that. I don't think that matters. Russell Westbrook is going to give you 110% every second that he's on the floor. And I think at this point in his career, he's really ready to win a championship. So, I mean, nobody thought that Harden was going to work in Brooklyn, and he was masterful this year. I mean, it was just a whole different guy that we saw. So this idea that, you know, you can't learn new tricks, I think got proven wrong, at least for James Harden, who none of us imagined, at least I certainly did not think that he was going to adjust in any way, and he did, and it worked. So they were just plagued by injuries. I don't know. I think that I think that the Lakers are contenders. I do think that KD is still in his prime, maybe the latter half of his prime, but I still think he is. I think James Harden is. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, when he's back, they're going to be an issue. Eventually, Kawhi will be healthy.
Right.
There are a lot of, and obviously we're still talking about the Bucks, and there are a lot of great teams out there. We haven't talked about the Jazz or the Nuggets or any of those teams. So there's a lot of great talent in the NBA. I do have some concerns about the longevity going into the playoffs for the Lakers, but again, it's LeBron James. So
Right.
I'm not in the habit of predicting when Tom Brady is going to retire or if LeBron James is going to, deteriorate. Neither of those things are really good for business. So and a waste of time. So I'm going to still put some faith in the Lakers. And whatever happens, it's going to be a great regular season. So that's exciting.
It is. So the last thing I wanted to ask you, I appreciate your time, Joy, is your Miami Heat. The last time I was on Ocean Drive was pre-COVID, so I don't know what the atmosphere is like, but I could sense that it's championship or bust right now because of this roster. And I thought about it, like we're talking about the Nets, we're talking about the Heat, we're talking about all these different teams, but it's like the Bucks just won the championship, so you still have the Bucks. This is like the most stacked the East has been in a very long time because there's so many viable teams. So where do you see your Miami Heat falling right now? Because I feel like they're built to match against Brooklyn. Like PJ Tucker is one of the best signings in my opinion because he's an agitator to Kevin Durant and Kyle Lowry. So I like your Heat squad, but do you have enough to get over that hump?
Well, a lot can happen, a lot can happen. I do think that the Heat would have to have a little bit of luck along the way. We saw what happened in the bubble, which was, amazing for me. Obviously, we didn't end up winning the championship, but, to be there was incredible. And Jimmy Butler put the team on his back. But yeah, I mean, I think the Heat should be considered contenders. I love the PJ Tucker signing. Love it. I actually think that is going to be a bigger factor for Milwaukee than everyone is considering. That series against the Nets, he was big. So, I think what the Nets did with bringing in Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker was really smart, and now he's not there anymore. So we'll see. Again, they're the champs, so they're on top of the world right now. Let them be. But I do think that's significant. So, I'm always excited about the Heat and, their aspirations. And I always trust Pat Riley like a zealot. So we'll see. I do think that it's going to be tough. You're right. The East is better. The East has some real dogs, and Milwaukee's going to be a problem. The Nets, I think, are going to be a real problem. We'll see what the Sixers do. I think they're eventually going to have to move Ben, so they could end up in a much better situation as well. So it'll be interesting. I think we might need a little bit of luck, but I have faith. I have faith in my Heatles.
There we go. We'll see. I have faith in Pat Riley. So I just got attacked on social media talking about the trade with Philly and possibly John Wall and Ben Simmons. So where can people find you on social media? Where can people hate on you, follow your show, all that good stuff?
Yeah, get used to that if you're giving your opinions out, by the way. Yeah. So, you just gotta ride the wave. One day they love you, one day they hate you. It is what it is. You can follow me at Joy Taylor Talks on Twitter and Instagram. My Facebook is Joy Taylor Media, and yeah.
I really appreciate your time, Joy. So I got to bug you for about 20 minutes. Whenever you want to come back on, I'd absolutely love it. So thank you very much, and best of luck to everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.